Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast, where we unpack sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. Today's guest makes his return. We're excited to have Ronald Nored back on the show, and we'll talk a bunch of basketball today and have some fun with him. Also encourage you to check out our weekly devotional podcast, which can be found wherever you're watching or listening to this show right now. That's the show where we take sports stories related to life, related to faith, and so encourage you to check that out. Also, we've been telling you about our new book. It's called The Sports Devotional: 30 Days of Encouragement for Following Jesus. You can check out thesportsdevotional.com for more information. Also, we are getting ready for the NFL season, which means the fantasy season. And so Fantasy Football Fellowship is back. Check out fantasyfootballfellowship.com. Join the community. It's free. We've got content all season long for you and your league to play fantasy football with purpose. So check that out, fantasyfootballfellowship.com. I want to thank our sponsor, Upward Sports. Upward Sports equips churches to run self-sustaining sports ministries in their communities. Whether you're a sports fanatic or on a staff at a church, Upward Sports will give you all the tools you need to run a first-class sports ministry. They've got basketball, soccer, flag football, cheerleading, volleyball, baseball, and softball. You can learn more today at upward.org/unpack. All right, joining us now, he's an assistant coach with the Atlanta Hawks. He's Ronald Nored. He's a former Butler point guard from 2008 to 2012, played in back-to-back national championship games. He was a two-time Horizon League Defensive Player of the Year. He got into coaching in 2013. He's been an assistant in the NBA with the Celtics, the Hornets, and the Pacers. He's a husband and father and follower of Jesus. Ronald, it's great to have you back on the show. Hope you're doing well. Man, good to see you.
I'm glad to be back. It's been too long. 2 years is too long. So happy to be here. I always look forward to having these conversations. I have a lot of basketball conversations, but it's the best when I can, entwine faith into that. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, before we jump into kind of your recent journey and what's been going on the last couple of years, the NBA Finals are on our minds. We're recording this right after Game 3. The Celtics go up 3-0. And of course, you've got a connection with that franchise, with Brad Stevens, who is your former coach, and you coached alongside him as well. What have you made of this run for the Celtics and so far being up 3-0 in these finals?
Well, history says they're going to win the finals. I don't think a team has ever been up 3-0 and lost the finals. I think I saw that after the game last night, or maybe it was 3-0 period, and the stat was 157-0. So it sounds like the Celtics are going to get it done. The Celtics have been the most dominant team all year long. I mean, they're deep, they're talented, they're well coached. Brad did an unbelievable job putting the team together. It's no secret they are where they are. I'm happy for them. Being in Boston, 2 years of my career was in Boston. And all they've talked about, I was in Boston, it's been 11 years, 10 or 11 years now ago. And all they ever talk about was Banner 18, Banner 18, Banner 18. They won Banner 17 in 2008. And ever since then, it's been Banner 18. And so now it looks like they're going to be able to get Banner 18. So for all the people there that I know, that I worked with, obviously Brad, very close with to this day, Joe Mazzulla, and I go back a couple years as well. So happy for him. I'm really happy for that group. It's just a great group of people, and I love to see people who do things right and do things well succeed, and that's that group.
Man, well, it's a loaded roster, tons of talent, and they're deep. Everybody understands their role. The moves that Brad Stevens made were unbelievable, even though Porzingis has been banged up. But adding Drew Holiday was a game changer. But you mentioned Coach Mazzulla, and I feel like of all the kind of storylines, he probably is the most underrated. What do you appreciate about what he's been able to do? And then also for you as a young coach, he's a young coach, getting it done now at the highest level. What jumps out to you about his coaching ability?
Yeah, well, Joe is I don't even say this because this is the conversation that we're having, but Joe is deeply rooted in his faith, like deeply. To the point where a couple it would have been last year. I went over his house and I was a little late. I was actually at Brad's house first, and I went over to Joe's house after. And I was a little bit late, and I walk in, and Joe's just in there reading his Bible. Like the lights are dimmed, he's just in there reading, and the kids are in bed. His wife is in bed. He was waiting for me and just reading. And that's a daily habit for Joe. Um, his him being grounded in his faith. It puts his output comes from that, being
Mm,
rooted in that,
mm,
and the way that he cares for people, the grace that he gives people, the way that he speaks to people, um, and so it all starts there. And then Joe is very, very, very even keel, like very all the time, and he's truthful. And so he just fits that team. That's another move that Brad made. Joe was behind the bench when everything went down, and Brad saw enough in him to really. Joe skipped some people that were technically in front of him to become the head coach in that
yeah.
situation. And so Brad saw that in him because he's an intelligent coach. He's a hard worker. He knows the game. He studies the game, and he's able to communicate. And Joe's a great leader as well. That group needed that, especially at that time and what they were going through, and they needed a coach that would speak truth to them,
Mm.
and get them on the same page, but also hold them accountable to that page that they're developing together. And Joe's just done all that. And you know what sometimes is as just like outsiders we think of coaching, it's a lot of the things that we can see are like the X's and O's and the decisions that they make on the court. But that's like maybe 20% of the job. There's such a large part of the job, especially when you get to that level of just keeping the team together, keeping them on
Mm,
the same page,
mm.
having a single message that you all are a part of and that you can strive towards, and that people don't have their own agendas. And those guys have lost in the finals before. They've been in the Eastern Conference Finals multiple times. They're really at a place in their careers where they want to win. You add Drew Holiday, he's won a championship. Porzingis, although he's hurt, has really helped them in a lot of ways get to where they are now. That's a team that's focused, that's locked in, and you got to give a lot of credit to those guys, but to Joe as well for keeping them moving in that direction.
Absolutely, and the poise of the team starts with him, and you see it on the
100%.
court.
Yeah.
The comeback last night, they weren't phased by it. They held
No.
on and finished the deal. And so along those lines too, talking about poise, Luka is unbelievable. One of the most talented players in the league, but it's evident he's got a problem with the refs and the fouls and arguing, and when there's not a call, when there is a call. This has been an ongoing thing for him. So from your perspective as a coach, how have you worked with players that get caught up in that, the complaining, the whining, and also from your perspective too, we know head coaches have to work the refs, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Some coaches more than others. How have you learned that and navigated that even from your role?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, our players are the entity that represents this league at the highest level. Like they just are. It's not the coaches, it's not the management, it is the players. And players have just truthfully, like they have a lot of power, they have a lot of sway, and rightfully so. Um, the biggest thing is I think to try to help the players understand how that impacts the team, how that impacts the officials. The officials are human. Like we want them to be like these robots that are just like make the right call every time. The reality is they're human. And so as with like any human interaction, right? Like if even if like you disagree, but you do it respectfully, um, the referees understand that. Like they can take that. The referees can take you just going at them. They truthfully can. And they're built for that. But if there's any disrespect that comes along, if they ask you to stop and you keep going, if just don't do it well, tactfully, then they're human, and that usually doesn't go in the favor of that said player or that said team. And so as a coach, I've experienced that. And so I think trying to help the player understand that. And truthfully, the players listen, but when they're out there, they're competing, and sometimes they just like lose their minds.
Uh,
So as a coach, we have to try to do our best to stand up for our players as well. And so as an assistant coach, even, we have a lot of conversations during timeouts and things with officials. And so as assistant coaches, you have to find a way to ask the referee a question where you want them to give you the answer that you want to help your player. That's a part of the game. Hey, ref, I thought, when this happened, this is a call that, I saw that should have been made. What did you think about it? And have that kind of dialogue. And we have the relationships with the officials too. And so, there's a lot of nuances to that. And then the head coach obviously has this whole thing where he may have to completely stand up. He may have to get a technical for the player, whatever it is. But that's definitely a large part of the game.
No, that's an interesting perspective. And I just hope for Luka's sake too, because he's becoming the face of the league, one of the top players. He's just, it's gotta get to that level of being able to handle the big moment and keep his composure. So we'll see what the offseason looks like for him. But let's talk about kind of last couple of years for you. The last time we talked, you were on the bench with the Indiana Pacers. You now took an opportunity to join the Atlanta Hawks and Quinn Snyder. What went into that decision, and from a faith standpoint too, what was the decision-making process and the way that God kind of worked in that situation for you?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, like for my career, I've been so blessed in my whole career, just to, be connected with Brad Stevens, who brought me to the NBA, and great coaches and management that I've worked with that have elevated me on this journey. And one of the things that I have not done in my career or haven't experienced, I've only been in the playoffs once. The one time I was in the playoffs in my 10 years in the NBA was with the Celtics. And I haven't been since. And so one of the things was, watching the Hawks over the last couple of years, and then Quinn Snyder getting this job. Like when Quinn was in Utah, like they were multiple years the number one record, the top record in the league or in the West. And he really built that program to a high level. And then when he came to Atlanta mid-year or right after the All-Star break, Atlanta was like teetering. And then, they make the playoffs. Lost to Boston in the first round. And so when I had the opportunity to speak with Quinn about, an opportunity here in Atlanta, it was really those two things. It rhymes, but I always say it was about Quinn and win. Like I just wanted to, and unfortunately the season didn't go the way that we wanted to for multiple reasons. A lot of those being injuries. We had some significant games missed by some impactful players on our team, but that decision, it wasn't taken lightly. Obviously Indiana is great, and where they went this year, right? It was like hard to watch. I was like, oh my gosh, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I love those guys, and Rick Carlisle has been nothing but great for me. It was definitely a transition for my family. And, anytime you make a move, I was telling somebody this the other day, when we moved from Charlotte to Indy, my daughter was 2. She's 6 now. She was 2. And I was like sad that I was taking her out of her 2-year-old preschool, And so now I have 3 kids now. My daughter's 6. I have a 3-year-old son, and I have a 1-year-old son.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, and so it's all, and obviously my wife, and it's hard being the person that moves for other people. Although you come to these decisions together as a family, it's hard moving for other people, for your job. Like there's just so much change that has to happen. The biggest thing that we pray for when we move is community. And we had one stop in our journey where we just didn't have great community, and you just feel like you're like kind of alone. We're married, but we're like alone. We're not, we're going to church. Like it's good. We love church, but like you want to be rooted and you want to be with other believers. And so we prayed, like our prayer was like, when we moved to Atlanta, we just pray that we have community so that we can feel connected and so that we can grow as well. And it takes a little bit of time, but we can really start to see God working in that and the community that, we're starting to build here in Atlanta. And, we got the number one pick as well. We didn't pray for that, but we got it. God works in mysterious ways in that, but we're looking forward to seeing where this goes. And we're grateful to be here and looking forward, truthfully, to just continue to get rooted.
Man, no, that's a great topic to discuss. So I'd love to even unpack that more because actually on Tuesday's show we talked about the difference between the Mavericks and the Celtics, where the Mavs are sort of a one-man team, or they had been the first couple of games, and Kyrie finally stepped up here in Game 3. But the Celtics, a team, it's like, man, the depth and all that. And so for us in life, we need that depth of a roster, so to speak, with people around us and people that we rely on and carry each other's burdens and, pick up the player that's not shooting well, that kind of mentality. And so for you, what have you learned in how to develop community that can be an encouragement to people that long for that community, that's go, yeah, I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of being isolated. What does it take? What are the lessons learned for you, having kind of moved around and having to kind of almost start over a lot of times to be able to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the thing, like when I go back and look at that time where we eventually got community, but we felt like it took us a while. And I think the biggest thing is being vulnerable, being open and willing to just step out. Like that's it. We can kind of stay in our bubble and we can kind of stay like in our house and we can just kind of, for us, it's like we move, the season starts, we get in this rhythm where it's just games. I'm traveling, it's the family. My wife has the 3 kids, and we're just in that rhythm and we never step out. We never put ourselves out there. And so that's been, I think the biggest thing for us has been, and even like the other thing we've learned is it's hard to make friends as an adult. Like
Yeah.
when you're in high school, it's easy. Like you grew up with these people. They're always around you. When you're in college, college is like no other time in life. You have all the people that you want to be around. They're all there all the time.
All day.
Like all day.
All day and night.
And that's just not real life, when you leave college and you're not, for us, like we're not in a place where neither of us will ever be in a place where we grew up, where we have our friends. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. My wife is from Northeast Ohio. Cleveland's kind of close. But for us, like we don't have that. Like our families aren't around, our high school friends aren't around. So everywhere we go, we're looking for new people. And as an adult, especially an adult with 3 kids, it's hard. We feel like we want people that are kind of like that have kids that like, not even because they understand like where we are. I think that's a part of it, but like, it's, for us to hang out with people that don't have kids, we're just like still parenting our kids while trying to be adults at the same time. Kids will like babysit themselves. They'll just go away, they'll play, and then we can have adult time where we're like, we're pouring into people, we're being poured into. And all that to say, like stepping out and finding community. Obviously for us, it's the church, and getting in a group. Groups have been so important for our journey as a married couple and our journey as individuals and our faith. And so we're thankful that we have a good group here. We found a good group here. We're actually going tonight. And that just it's truthfully a game changer. Like we go to church now. We just got in this group probably 2 months ago, and we go to church now after going to church for almost a year of being here, and like we know people. And it's not that many people, but it feels different that I'm worshiping with friends, with people that I know. I grew up in a small church. My dad was the pastor, tiny church. Like I went there a couple weeks ago. The same people that were there when I was there, I thought they were old and dying then. They're still there. And so, it's easy there. But when we go to a bigger church, and so like being in a bigger church, like it's so nice to like, I walk in, I know where I'm going to sit, and I know that the people that are in my group are going to sit with me. And that truthfully, that changes the way that I see Jesus. It does. And, I think that's a really important piece of our faith to, the Bible, like God, Jesus doesn't want us to do this alone. Right. It takes other people. for us to grow in our faith. Jesus had 12 other dudes he rolled with all the time, plus other periphery people that he was with. He didn't do it alone. Paul didn't do it alone. It was all together with multiple people.
Amen. I love it. What a great extension to our conversation on Tuesday. So that was awesome, man. I'm also curious, just because, as somebody in the NBA, also needing community there, and there's the built-in community with your team, but also just from a faith standpoint, wanting to remain close to Jesus, following him while through the craziness of the season. The difference between, all right, I got to develop relationships within the league, but also the importance, like you just mentioned, having that community kind of outside of the NBA too. I imagine, that's just got to be something interesting to juggle and navigate. I'm curious what your strategy or approach has been to that.
Yeah, at this point, I would have to go back and think about it earlier. At this point, it's kind of like, you join a staff and like that's your crew.
Yeah.
We are together so much all the time. And really, truthfully, you pray to be on a good staff. I have been so blessed to be on great staffs. Like we've had great staffs, whether our believers or not. We have staff. I've been on staffs. This is one of them where people work hard. They're good people. They're competent, and we work well together. That was one thing with Quinn coming here. He talked a lot about humility, humility amongst the staff, and without that, like the staffs it just doesn't operate well. If everyone is trying to like one up each other, or they want to do more than they're given. Those things happen all the time. They want to be seen in a bigger light than than they're in. And so Quinn preached humility, and it's worked well on this staff. And it's important to have that because we spend so much time together. But also, my wife isn't on this staff, and so I have to leave the building every day. And while there may be some wives, we have a few women on our staff here that she connects with. There's situations where she might not. Like we're here working all day, and she's at home with our kids. And so for us, especially her, and I feel this as just a husband, as a man, I want my wife to be able to be lifted up too, and to loved well while I'm gone. So that's a big part of the community for us too. I'm gone half the year. Does she have a group of women? Does she have a group that she can feel connected to? And so that's really like that. That dichotomy of like the staff versus home, or the staff versus away from work, is having a group that as a family, as a couple, and as my wife just being herself can feel connected to as well.
Love it. Yeah. And I relate to that too. The importance of having the family community and the couples community. It's great to have my buddies and even people that I connect with through the ministry of Unpacking It and all that. But to have the local church body of believers, and that you're in community and small group with, it's huge. So
huge.
I appreciate your thoughts on that. So this weekend is Father's Day. And so we'll start with kind of your role now as a dad. You mentioned your 3 kids. What do you think about that role right now? The season that you're in as a dad, what is challenging you the most, and what are you maybe praying about the most right now as a dad, as we kind of reflect on Father's Day?
Yeah, I mean, this has just been the greatest gift to be a dad. The Bible says children are a gift. Like it couldn't be more true. I love being a father to my kids. Avery's our daughter, who's 6, like I said, our son Kai, and then our son Jude, our 3 kids. And we have so much fun. Like it's crazy. It's always crazy. Someone's crying every other second. And truthfully, it drives me crazy most of the time, but we're just like in a great place, a great rhythm. My kids are doing great. And it's really been a blessing to be their dad. I think the biggest thing that we're praying for, like, I'm learning that, I mean, I've known this, since my second child was born, that our kids are different. They're all different. But right now I'm thinking about and praying about just how my kids are different, and just where their needs are right now. Like one thing that we've really talked about with my daughter, unfortunately, she's a lot like me, and she likes people to have her like to know her opinion. And while she's a super sweet girl, she's like her dad. And so one thing that like for her that we have to talk to her about and pray through for her is just allowing other people to have a opinion, a voice. Her younger brother, my son, my middle son Kai, right now he's just super emotional about everything. It's like if you tell him, hey buddy, like don't drop that on the floor, the smallest thing ever, he's like, wow,
Oh, no.
about everything. But he has this life and this joy about him that's just like he's at VBS right now. My wife told me the teacher in his VBS class like whispered, he's our favorite. And
Ah,
every teacher he has says that at church, at school, at VBS. He just like has this radiance about him. And then our 1-year-old, he's just starting to walk. Like he's literally like he was a zombie yesterday,
ah.
like trying to walk. And so like the different needs of our kids right now, like being like seeing them, understanding where they are, and like as a couple being on the same page with how we're parenting them, and then just praying for them is what we got going on right now. But it's a wild, crazy time, but it's a lot of fun too.
Oh, that's great. I love it, and, yeah, I'm in a similar season as well, and so, with Father's Day too, I'm sure it brings up memories of your dad who passed away when you were younger, and so what maybe comes to mind and even now as a dad, how often do you, maybe remember or reflect like, "Oh, man, I remember my dad used to do that," or, I'm
Yeah.
like my dad in this way." What what bubbles up for you?
Yeah, my dad passed away when I was 13. And I think the biggest thing that hits me about that, like I had a great dad. And he got cancer when I was 12, passed away when I was 13. The thing that hits me the most as a father is like I want to be there for my kids, as they're going as they get older. Like what I didn't have. I didn't have a dad, from 14 till now. And um, you know, at times at times I get sad. I'm not saying I live in sadness. Like truly grateful for the life that my dad lived, and he was a great man. But man, there's just times where it hits me where like man, like I just like I want to see my kids, you know, get there. I wish my dad could see me coach the Atlanta Hawks. I wonder what he would be like. I don't know. I'm sure he would be a crazy fan. He loves sports. He's the reason I got into sports. Um, but Father's Day is always a great time to reflect on that and really like just try to pour into my kids the way that my dad poured into me and loved me.
It's awesome. That's a
Yeah.
great legacy and way to honor him for sure. Well, we'll wrap up with this. As far as kind of now you're in the off season, and of course the Hawks are preparing for the number one pick, but just the opportunity to somewhat slow down for you. Anything in particular that you're studying or reading, and maybe that God is teaching you, and you're kind of working through and unpacking in your own life and faith journey.
Yeah, guy's doing a lot. He did a lot leaving in the transition to coming here. Not winning the way that we wanted to. That's pretty disappointing.
Mm.
Even like me as a coach, joining a new staff. We don't go to Andy Stanley's church here in Atlanta, but one thing that I've heard Andy say before is like, what does it look like to lose in this situation? And that is like when you're having interactions. Again, like I said with my daughter, she learned it from me. I like my opinion. Like for the most part, I think I know what I'm talking about when I'm coaching. But to hear Quinn say I want humility and to be a part of a new staff and try to just build into that and not just like be the guy, it takes a lot. And so that humility, the grace for other people that, when you may not disagree, when you may not agree with them, has been big for me. And then just the studies that I'm going through. One is like right now at our church, we're going through Revelation, which is like, for everybody, it's just like absolutely mind blowing. But man, the one thing that our pastor talks about all the time is like, we are getting a glimpse of Jesus, like in a different way. Like it is the greatest, like there is nothing greater than getting that glimpse of Jesus. Like we open the Bible and we get to see what Jesus is like. We get to see, like just open your eyes to see. And Revelation is allowing us to do that. I'm in a great group with a group of guys that actually are in Charlotte. My pastor in Charlotte with some other guys that are there in Charlotte. We just finished Proverbs. So we went through the Psalms a Psalm a week. And then we finished that and we were like, hey, do we want to keep going through Proverbs? So we just finished Proverbs. And now we started in Mark. So we're in the 3rd chapter of Mark right now, just watching Jesus and his miracles and the way that he interacts with, the religious leaders of the time who are questioning him and always trying to trip him up, is a great thing to see, but also to learn, like I'm saying, like my own humility here. And so God's doing a lot. He's teaching me a lot. I'm learning a lot through his word. And, at the end of the day, seeing Jesus is what it's all about. Like when you see Jesus, there's no other response but to worship. And so just being in the word, going through Revelation, staying rooted, it's allowing me to see him more. And, it's just, I'm living a joy-filled life because of that. And I'm really grateful that, God's revealed his word through the Bible for us. Like what a gift that is.
Amen. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. Well, that's very, very encouraging and love hearing that. Well, man, that's a good spot to end. It leads us to worship. That's right. So we got to get into the word and gives us that joy and that heart of worship. So that's a good note to end on. Well, Ronald, man, excited for you. Of course, as a Hornets fan, I don't root for the Hawks, but I root for you and excited for this new opportunity. And yeah, the draft's going to be fun in a couple weeks. So enjoy the process. What's your role as an assistant coach these next couple weeks?
Just to be, when we have workouts, just to be here and, watch these guys. And then I'm actually coaching our summer league team.
Oh, nice.
And so, so I'm preparing for summer league. All the stuff on the walls behind me, showing all the strategy for that. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be fun.
Oh, that'll be great. Yeah. Summer league's fun. I like watching that in July. So that's a good chance to see some of the young guys. So, and you as a young coach. So that's great.
I'll be out there.
What's that?
I said, I'll be out there. So
that's right.
Wait.
That's right. Enjoy. Well, awesome stuff. Thank you, Ronald Nored, for being here on the Unpacking It podcast today. Always great having him on. And encourage people to keep an eye out for him and the Hawks. So should be a fun upcoming season for sure. As we kind of wrap up the NBA Finals and the Celtics, now everybody's chasing them. So we'll see. We'll see who rises to give him some competition next year. But good stuff from Ronald. Thanks everybody for watching and listening today. I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It podcast.